Hello and welcome back to my mid-school life. Now again, today you're going to start getting annoyed at me. This is more of another episode of my new school life. But once again, like the S&M that I built, this one is a very important frame. And it does reach all the way back to the 1990s. So a couple of months ago I spotted a standard Trail Boss frame on eBay, and it isn't the standard Trail Boss that you would think it is because they still make them. Now I'll go into the history of this one a little bit before I start waffling on about what I've done to it and what's on there. In the 1990s there was a rider called Robbie Morales, aka the Trail Boss, absolute legend. He was riding for Standard. He fell out with Standard during road falls and was actually going to go home during that, but he persevered, and then he did fall out with Standard, and he stopped them from naming the frame a Trail Boss, and they had to call it something else. And that lasted until about 10 years ago, when obviously Standard were allowed to call the frames Trail Bosses again and started making them as Trail Bosses again. So there's a little bit of history for you. I was a bit bummed to find out that in Road Falls Robbie was actually riding a blue STA. But there you go. It is what it is. It's a Trail Boss, and it was kind of a nod to Robbie doing this one. Because I really, everyone needs to have a Standard in their collection. Now, I've already got one, and we will get to that one day when I can finally get it out of the dirty loft that it's currently sat in. But obviously, I still like to ride when I can, and therefore I like to have a fleet of bikes that I can ride when I can. On a good day, when there's no wind, when my knees are not hurting and my shoulder don't feel like, it's going to fall off at any given moment. So I bought this frame from a guy on eBay. I'd already bought quite a few parts from him for another bike that I've been working on. Man, it was hard to resist, I'll tell you that. But then I got done with the bike that I was doing, and I thought, you know what, sod it. There's not many times that you get to buy a very clean, modern Standard frame, because they're very, very expensive. By the time you got one to the UK, if you imported one, you'd be looking at about £700 to £800 for the frame. Right now, they cost about $600 in the US to have one made, plus tax, plus shipping. So yeah, it's not a cheap outing, and it never was. And as time goes on, Rick seems to wind things down more and more, so you don't find now pre-built Standard frames in a shop that you can just go and buy. You have to go there, order it, and then they'll make it for you. And yeah, it's quite a lengthy process from what I've heard. Now, do bear in mind that this Trail Boss frame, because of what I've told you, has been custom made for a customer for how he wanted it. I don't know if the guy I bought it from bought it that way. I really don't know. I haven't asked him, but we worked out a deal that was just absolutely too good to be true for me, and I couldn't resist. And yeah, so the frame came to me in an army green. Not a fan of it, and I've already got a green bike, and one day you will see that as well. It didn't have Trail Boss on it, because apparently, according to the guy that sold it to me, Rick, had lost the artwork for the decals. It didn't have the Cobra on the head tube. Again, he didn't have the artwork for the decals, and I think it's only over the last few years that somebody's redrawn it all for him so they can charge $50, $60 for a set of stickers. So with that in mind, I made all of my own decals, drew them all myself from the ground up. I bought a fender badge from a Cobra Mustang and put it over a tube and shaped it so that it would fit on the head tube properly. That looks amazing. At which point I sanded all the frame back, repainted it in a lovely dark blue, black decals, as you can see from the photographs that you'll be seeing that I can't see yet because I've not added them. And then I slowly started ordering parts and built it up as a bike, and it's now complete. So I'll run through the parts with you right now. Obviously they're not standard forks, they're Federal Assault forks in chrome. They were on a special offer from Source. Big shout out to Source. If you don't know who they are, look them up, go and buy your stuff there. And before I continue, I also never ever do this, but I would like to mention Mason and Custom Riders. They are the best. I love Custom Riders. You need to support them, guys. Shops like this are going away, and now is a bad time. You need to get on their website and you need to buy from them and keep them alive, because without them we are pretty screwed. So yeah, big shout out to Custom Riders and Mason over at Custom Riders. I ordered pretty much most of the parts there, apart from the fork. So yeah, the frame is a 2013 standard Trail Boss. I've made all new stickers for it. Federal Assault fork in chrome. It's got a tank upper headset. I didn't realise that the bottom wouldn't work with this fork. So it's got the lower part of a silver polished sealed headset that will work with the built-in crown race. Shadow Odin stem, black with titanium bolts that I had left over from a project I've been working on. You will see that one by the time the summer's out. S&M fathead bars, which were thrown in with the frame for free. Like I said to you, this was a no-brainer. There was no way that I could turn this down. So we've got ODI Hucker grips, blue and black, obviously. Flangeless, because I couldn't find any with the flanges on in that colour from where I was ordering them from. There's a Shadow Conspiracy Sano medium brake lever, obviously for us old bastards with knackered hands, because pulling them tiny little things with 2 fingers when you've got arthritis, yeah, it's not easy. We've got Shadow Conspiracy bar ends. The seat post is made by Easton. It was a newish old stock Midschool post. It's railed. Have to have a velo drop nose on a Robbie bike, because that's what Robbie always rode. But obviously I don't want to pay for a really old knackered GT drop nose 80-90 quid. No thank you. So I bought a brand new old stock drop nose, recovered it in black snakeskin leather, fake leather. As I mentioned in a restore thread that I did for this bike, I would have used the real one because snakes are little buggers, but none of them are wide enough apart from an Anaconda, and those will cost you an absolute fortune. So we've got a Shadow Conspiracy bottom bracket, profile GDH 175 cranks, right hand drive, very hard to get now. They're all bossless for spline drive, no good to me. Shadow VVS sprocket, 28 tooth. Shadow Conspiracy interlock supreme chain. It's a standard. What else can you put on there? This is why it ended up costing me quite a bit, because it's a standard and you never ever half-arse a standard. We've got Shadow Conspiracy seal bearing alloy pedals. Apparently these are Trey Jones' signature pedals. I think he rides for someone else now. I'm not sure. Okay, so the wheels. So this was a bit of a bugger in the end. So the frame is 10mm at the back. There's no way I was about to cut this frame to fit my existing wheels in there. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to buy a set of wheels. And again, it's a standard. You don't half-arse a standard. So it ended up costing me a bloody fortune. But the problem was, all of the wheels I was going to buy are 14mm bolts. Obviously female. But the axle is 17mm. And they will only fit in a 14mm frame. So I thought, oh, well, that's okay, that's fine. I know plenty of wheels out there that use a 3/8 bolt, which is roughly 10mm. I'll just get some of those. So I found some of those, and the only set I could find were Total Tech Fires in chrome, which are a Total Spitfire rim designed by Ronnie Remo, in chrome with rainbow spokes. And then obviously 3/8 female bolts. Cool. You know, they were a lot of money, but they were on sale. So again, shout out to Custom Riders. Well, when they arrived, I found out that Ronnie had left a cheeky bit of 14mm sticking out, so they wouldn't fit. So I had to take the back wheel apart, smack the axle out, and then grind it down so that it sat flush with the push-on alloy shoulders, at which point it did fit in the frame. But yeah, lesson learned there. Nobody makes them in the old style anymore, where they are just literally a flat shoulder and a 10mm bolt to fit into a 10mm frame or a 14mm with some adapters on them. So lesson learned there. For the tyres, I went with Demolition Hammerheads in 2.2. Again, you don't skimp on a standard. That's just the way it is. But they were half price. Again, a big shout out to Custom Riders. Love you boys. Keep going. Please hang in there. I'd be screwed without you. We've got Federal inner tubes, and the reason I went with these is because they are the larger inner tubes, because I've had quite a few regular inner tubes split when they're trying to fill out a bigger tyre. Now obviously these are sold as a 2.2, but they're not 2.2s. They're always bigger than that. I mean, the S&M 2.2s I've got, I think they're, what are they called? Speedballs. They're apparently 2.2, but there's no way. They're absolutely massive. Got some blue valve caps on there made by Cinema, and obviously just a regular Odyssey slit cable to run the brake, which again is a Shadow Sano, and was an absolute nightmare. The chain hit it, so I've had to grind it all away and then repaint it, and yeah, it was a sod, this one. I ain't gonna lie. Some of them go together like first time, and some of them fight you, and this one fought me on practically everything. The headset was a nightmare, the brake was a nightmare, the paint, I had problems with that, so in some of the photographs you'll see a lot of handprints from where I've been handling it, sorting it out, and haven't cleaned it off yet, and this, that and the other. Yeah, the wheels didn't fit. So like I say, some of them are just like that. And it really sucks, and you have to really sort of have a lot of patience and reach down deep to get them finished, because it did fight me. But I think I won. Beautiful bike. I can't wait to get out on it. The weather's getting better now. The wind's still an absolute nightmare down here at the beach. But yeah, so anyway, there's another episode for you. A little bit of history on Robbie Morales. He now runs Colt, by the way. So if you see anything made by Colt, that's all Robbie's company. After Standard, Robbie went to work with Chris Muller at S&M, and obviously invented Fit and worked there for a while and learned all the tricks of the trade from Chris, and then went off to form Colt. So, you know, what better can you get than that, having your own company and making all of your own stuff? Fair play. Alright, boys and girls, well, you take care and you enjoy this summer. Stay safe out there, don't get burnt, and be careful in the sea. And I'll see you all on the next one, which will be a real mid-school bike, by the way. Ta-da!